My smoking hot wife Kay and I were watching a television show. I think it was one of the pre-shows over the week before the Super Bowl, and one of the things that they got into the program was about how fundamentals are so important to the game of football. But the fact of the matter is that fundamentals are important in all aspects of life. I remember they were talking about how football, and I remember hearing the story about Vince Lombardi, who was the legendary coach of the Green Bay Packers. That every season he would, on the first day of practice, he would always stand in front of the team and holding a football, and he would say, "Gentlemen, we're going to start from the beginning. This is a football," but the story that was being told on TV was about John Wooden, the legendary basketball coach from UCLA from many, many years ago, and how he always started with the basics. And he said that everything that you do that has to do with basketball and ultimately in life, you must be very, very good at the basics. And the way he ground that down to them from the very beginning was that he actually taught them in the very first practice how to put their socks on. Now, that might not sound like anything really, really important, but many, many of the players who played for Coach Wooden will often comment on the fact that they learned from him that it was the little things, it was the basics, it was the fundamentals that really, really mattered. And many of them refer back to the idea of learning how to put their socks on as being the key, the anchor in their mind to that. And so with that, talking about uncopyable, I think that sometimes people think that when they are trying to separate themselves from the competition, that they have to come up with some magical new idea. And there are things about being uncopyable that simply mean that you are really, really taking good care of the fundamentals, or as I like to call it, being brilliant at the basics. And one of the things that I think that is not really paid as close attention to as it should be, is the funnel, the sales and marketing funnel. That while on the surface, when you talk to a company about their sales and marketing funnel, they say, "Oh yeah, we have, of course we understand what the funnel means. They come in through the top, and then they work their way down and come out at the bottom, and their customers say, yeah, that's really right," but somewhere along the way, the fundamentals are not necessarily given that much attention, or as much attention as they should. So, and because of that, many of the companies that I have worked with, many of the companies, a very high percentage of the companies that I've worked with, really have very inefficient sales and marketing funnels. And so I want to go into that today, and I want to also tell you, and I'm going to give you a really, really special offer here a little later on. But first of all, so let's start with the basics, okay? Let's start with the very, very fundamental basics of doing business. And that's where I'm going to bring up the godfather of management theory, I guess, the late Peter Drucker. And Peter Drucker said something very, very simple. He said, the purpose of business is to create a customer. That is the basic, fundamental purpose of a business, is to create a customer. And if we talk about the funnel that so many people refer to, essentially what they say is yeah, okay, we're going to put people in at the top of the funnel. We're going to get them into the top of the funnel. We're going to find these leads, and then we're going to work their way down. And then essentially the steps that they say happen in the funnel go like, okay, so number one is they search for leads. They put a large number of people, and it might even, you might even start out with say the population of the world, but then as it drills down down through the funnel, that you are starting to cull out, and you're looking for those people who are what you would call leads, and then you want to capture those leads, and and very common practice in especially the B2B world is that, okay, they identify the leads, they capture the leads, they send the leads a catalog or some type of resource to them, or they email something to them, and then they hand the leads over to salespeople. And then they hope like hell that the salespeople know how to sell, right? And then what happens is that at the down at the other end is that that some of the salespeople, or the salespeople close some of the leads, winner, winner, chicken dinner, we got that one, right? Or they didn't close them, and then they kind of just disappear, right? Because what happens also is that when we look at the funnel, is that as the people are going down the funnel, there are holes in the funnel. And it might be holes in the funnel that they just simply aren't qualified, or that they are, or that somehow they've slipped through the cracks of the funnel, that the system is not really as efficient as it should be. And so what really is going on with this is that this process that I describe of looking for leads, capturing leads, connecting with them in some way with some type of collateral material via email, via the internet, or something like that, or mailing it to them, which it doesn't happen very often anymore, and then handing it over to the salespeople and hoping that they will close a certain percentage of them. That is actually very, very inefficient. And the reason why it's inefficient is because it's not based on some very, very fundamental basic practices that we should be doing. And I think there are multiple mistakes that are being made at this juncture with the funnel that companies are using. But I'm going to share one mistake here to you today, and then I'm going to tell you how you can get the other mistakes for free from me. Okay. So mistake number one, which is really, really the big one, is the definition of a lead. Now, when I say a lead, there is a difference between a prospect and a lead. And you might think this is semantics. I don't, because this helps me to, in my mind, be very, very clear about where I am in the relationship building process, in the sales process, or anything like that. See, a prospect is not a lead. A prospect fits the profile of your target market, of your ideal target market. So they might, be in the right industry. Of course, they might. Let's say you're only looking for companies that are in, I don't know, the aerospace industry, or in the automotive aftermarket industry, or one of those types of whatever industry it is that you're looking for. So the obvious is they have to be in that industry. Number two is maybe it's the size of the company that is important to you. Maybe they have to have a certain amount of sales, or maybe a certain number of employees that you want to deal with. That they have that the person you are looking for is a decision maker, right? That's what they do. Maybe it's that they have had products or services like they've used them before, they've purchased them before. Okay, so that helps to identify that. But the bottom line is that the demographic profile of your target market simply defines what a prospect is. All right, what it does not define is the level of interest that prospect might have in you. And so to me, a lead is a prospect who indicates a level of interest. So if, for example, you identify somebody who is a lead, and if you think in terms of, say, a 1 to 5 scale, that one means, there's never going to be a chance in hell that they're ever going to work with you. A 5 is that they are really, really super hot. They're very, very interested in working with you. So if you find a prospect who fits the profile of your target market, and then they also indicate a high level of interest, well, what are your odds of closing that person? The odds are very, very good. And so the fact is that you want to find them, as many of those people as possible. Now, some people might be saying, well, Steve, yeah, those are the low-hanging fruit. We're looking for them all the time. You know what? Low-hanging fruit are obvious. Low-hanging fruit are right in front of your eyes. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you going out, identifying prospects who fit the profile of your target market, and then you connect with them, you communicate with them to where they go, oh, yeah, you're right. I do have an interest in something like that. So the more you do that, this is the fundamentals. This is the basics of all this stuff. The higher your closing rate, the higher the number of sales you're going to make. So you see, what we often do that is a mistake, first of all, like I say, is that we mistake the definition of a lead. And we will often define somebody who fits the profile, that's a lead. It's not a lead. Okay, so let's get back to this idea that, okay, you've identified somebody that is a lead, and then you hand that prospect over to your salespeople. So now your salespeople have to go out, and yeah, this person might be a prospect, but the salesperson has to go out and either, number one, determine that this person has a level of interest for you, or number two, they have to convince that prospect that they should have a level of interest for your product or service. So I call it hunting moose. Those of you that followed me for a while, you know that that's what I'm talking about. Is that I'm always saying, who is your moose? Who's your moose? Because let's say you are looking for a very, very specific type of prospect, and in this case we're going to say it's the moose in the forest. Now you go into the forest, right, and you are confronted with all kinds of animals in the forest, but the fact is that you're only interested in the moose, so you need to cull out all the rest of the animals in the forest and get your laser beam focus on the moose. Now, here's the issue that happens, like I said, is that sometimes we'll define somebody as being a prospect, maybe by or somebody who is sort of a prospect because, oh, you know what, they're in the forest. You know what, they're an animal in the forest. And so, and so we identify them, and then we capture their names and their contact information, and we offer incentives, or we offer bonuses, or we offer things to people that really are just designed to just fill, just get you lots of names, not even literally good prospects. So let's say that when you go into the forest, the salesperson you're actually saying to the salesperson, here are the yellow pages, right? Go start selling. Well, that's the forest, and so if you hand your salespeople, you call them leads, I call them prospects. They might not even be prospects. But imagine this. Imagine that you were to hand 10 of these contact names to your salespeople, and 2 of them are moose. The rest are also animals in the forest. So ostensibly they might be. You think, oh, they're probably somebody that we should be talking to. But if the moose are the prospects that you are actually looking for, then what percentage close rate would you possibly have in here? Okay, because really the animals that you're going to have a very good potential closing on are just the moose, right? You might luck out with somebody else once in a while, but really what we're looking for is the moose. So right out of the box, in cases like this, and this is not unusual, that to see something like this with companies is because they get into busyness and not effectiveness. So think about it this way, that the best that your salespeople could do in this case is to close 20% of the sales. But that means that they are closing 100% of the moose. And of course, that's probably not going to happen either. But what if you were able to create a campaign? What if you were able to create a system that by the time it gets to the salespeople, it's all moose? And now their job is to go out and talk to just moose and determine their level of interest. Maybe we can even do that in advance as well. But now imagine what happens to your closing rate if you are able to send them out to just see the very, very specific targeted moose and the ones who have actually raised their hand to say that yes, they do want to talk to you. And that's what creating a real marketing funnel is all about. Or in this day and age, it's really a flow chart is what we're talking about. And so at the very, very beginning of the flow chart, what we're talking about is, where do we get our prospects from? So we go out and we find where the moose are, right? We find the forests where the moose are. And in fact, what we try to do is we try to find the forests where they have a high concentration of moose. So it might be something like along the lines of a trade show. You might be able to find them on Facebook. You might be able to find them via email or through SEO. And these things are where you go find your prospects. But now what you want to do is you now want to have a system in place. You don't want to just take these names that you capture from the prospect source. You don't want to take those and hand them over to the salespeople, because they're still just prospects. You want to get them to raise their hand. You want to communicate with them in a very efficient, very effective way, so that when they say they are already a prospect, they fit the profile of your target market, but then you offer them something or you share something with them that they go, oh yeah, that's for me. I'm a moose, and I'm a moose who's interested. And we get them to raise their hand and show us a level of interest. And when they do that, then we now turn them over to the salespeople. Now, so this becomes a flow chart of, we go from the prospect source, we capture the prospects, we get the prospects who have an interest in our product or service to raise their hand, and then we turn around and hand it off to the salespeople, or we continue to use marketing to communicate with them. Now, the thing to do though is that you want to automate this. You want to make this as simple as possible for you and your company, and you want to make it very, very simple. You want to help them to be as efficient as possible. So you want to automate this, and you can automate this. Now, I'm going to tell you, I've got a program that will help you do that, to where you can efficiently sell it. And I'm going to tell you how you can get this program for free. I call it Put Your Marketing on Autopilot. Okay, it's a real program. It's a real product that on my website, if you go to my website, you will see that it sells for $197. But like I said, you can get it for free, because what I want you to do, and you can get it for free, and all you have to do is go buy my book on Amazon. Now, the last time I looked on Amazon, you can get my book for like $21.43. And when you get that, and here's how you order it: is go to theadventure.com/Amazon, and when you get that, and then you order the book, you can then forward that email to me, and I will have the email up here below, and you forward the confirmation of your order to me. Then I'm going to give you, as they say in Christmas Story, a major award. But no, I'm not going to give you a major award. I'm going to give you actually two major awards. And the first one is that I'm going to give you the $197 product for free, Put Your Marketing on Autopilot. And then I'm going to give you a free marketing webinar on how to be uncopyable. And it will be coming in the end of February 2017. And if I were to charge for that, I would charge at least $97. So so what you got is it says $394 value minimum. It's actually $294 value minimum. But with that, so go buy the book. And because you're going to find this book is going to be really, really good for you. It's written the way I talk, one syllable words, right? And then forward that confirmation to me at uncopyable-book@theadventure.com, and we'll be able to, and you'll get all the free bonuses. So that's it for this week. I know, a long one this week, right? Because I had a lot of information to share with you. But you want to be brilliant at the basics. You want to get a system in place that will help you do this. We can help you with that with the marketing, Put Your Marketing on Autopilot, that you can get literally for free after you buy my book on Amazon. This is Steve Miller, better known as Kelly's dad. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And always remember, be uncopyable.